Welcome, guys, to our discussion topic for this video. So, this video discussion topic is going to be tips for customers. So, guys, I've been thinking about it, and it's from a mechanic's point of view, as also from a customer's point of view. It's very hard to determine what information or what vital information that some customers might not be explaining correctly or telling the mechanic when they drop off their vehicle, or the service technician, or service writer, or whatever you want to call them. So I thought today maybe I would just give some of my personal opinions on the matter, as this is obviously not going to be every single piece of advice I can give you. There's obviously going to be stuff that I miss. There's going to be stuff that in somebody else's eyes as a mechanic, I might be wrong, I might be right, and there's also some views in some customers' eyes where I might be wrong or I might be right. But based off my experience, this is kind of some of the stuff that I've seen or encountered as being either on both sides of it, as the mechanic coming to a customer's call, or being that customer having to take my vehicle into the dealership due to like warranty reasons or whatever the case may be. So anyway, guys, let's go ahead and jump into this. So tips for customers. So some of the tips that I can give you guys is, obviously when something goes wrong with your vehicle, the first thing you kind of want to do is try to figure it out yourself. If there's a check engine light, or if there's a light blinking, you always want to try to check it yourself. Or if it's making a noise, sometimes if you're a little handy, you might want to start digging in there. This could be good, but it's also bad. From a mechanic's point of view, from my point of view, this is a kind of bad. The reason is, number one, sometimes when you check those codes, or when you check a check engine light, whether you do it yourself or whether you take it to like AutoZone, who checks it for free, which is fine, is a lot of times those codes get erased, and or when you start messing with stuff, you could inadvertently fix the problem without actually fixing the problem, if that makes any sense. Or you might cause something else to happen and the main problem to kind of be hid. Now, I know that if when you're thinking in your head as a customer, well, if I take my vehicle to a shop or a mechanic, they should be good enough to figure out the problem without the check engine light, without the codes, even if I did put my hands on it. And yes, that is true for the most part. But on our side, where it helps you as a customer, is, for instance, diagnostic time. So if a shop charges per hour for a diagnosis, it's going to take that technician, he or she, it's going to take them a lot longer in order to diagnose your car, because you've already cleared those codes. Now they're going to have to spend time driving it, trying to get it to replicate the problem or set those codes again to give them some type of direction to go to. As well as, if you inadvertently fix your car, you don't know what you did, or you don't know why it fixed what it fixed, and then later on it's going to happen again, and you're going to think it's a whole different issue. And then when you go to take it to a shop, you're not going to be able to explain what has happened, and you're going to probably forget what had happened or how you fixed it last time. And again, this is going to cause, it's beneficial to you as a customer to either write down everything if you're going to try to do anything yourself, or take it directly to a shop or a mechanic that you guys can trust right off the bat when a problem arises, because it's going to save you money and time in the long run. This has happened to me multiple times. There's sometimes where I'll get a call of someone doing their own job on their car, and they get halfway through it and they realize they don't have the tool or the knowledge or the means to finish the job. And honestly, I will not take the job. Um, Sometimes if I do take it, I'm going to charge a lot more just because now I have to go and kind of clean it up or try to pick up where the customer left off. But aside from that, it just takes a lot of diagnostic time. And if a shop or a technician charges per hour, if you would have brought it to him immediately or wrote down everything that it was doing and handed that note to the service writer and or technician, instead of it being a 2 or 3 hour diag time where they're charging you, let's just say $100 an hour, that's $300 that you're now having to pay, when in reality they could have probably found it in 30 minutes to an hour and only charged you $100. So that's some things to kind of keep in mind. Just some things to keep in mind. I understand that, from a customer's point of view, because this would be my point of view as a customer, and it has been my point of view as a customer. Why should I have to sit here and basically tell you every single thing that's going wrong with the car and what exact noise it's making and all this? If you're the technician or you're the mechanic and you're charging me, you should know this. And I understand that part, but that's not really the way it works. It's going to help you if you tell the shop or technician what exactly is going on with your car, because they can find the problem faster, they can get to the root issue of it faster, and ultimately probably save you money and definitely time in the long run. So that's kind of why it's very beneficial with the check engine light and touching your own car. Also, make sure that you guys explain everything that has happened with the car in a decent time frame. You don't have to go over from start to end the history of the entire car. But for instance, if 2 months ago, let's just say another shop worked on your car and they fixed a misfire problem, or whatever problem, let's just say a misfire problem, and 3 months later now you're having another issue with your car. You don't know what it is, obviously. But it's always good to tell the technician or shop or whoever you're taking your vehicle to, oh, by the way, last month my car was doing this A, B, and C, and I took it in, and the mechanic or the shop said I had a misfire on cylinder 3 or whatever the case may be, and they changed all my spark plugs and coils. Sometimes we can figure that information out just by the parts being either newer or new. Sometimes that's not always the case. And it's always good to have that extra information because, again, it goes back to finding the root problem, finding that problem faster, cutting down the diagnostic time to figure out the problem, as well as it gives us a better pathway to go. Just because you get a code for a misfire doesn't automatically mean spark plugs, or it doesn't mean obviously you go one way. There's several ways you can go to approach an issue. And yes, there is, how do I say it, like diagnostic trouble trees or steps that you take. Every technician or mechanic has their way of getting diagnosing an issue, but ultimately it all comes down to being upfront, trying to give as much information to the mechanic as possible. I know that might sound like a lot of work, and a lot of times you as the customer, we rely on you so much due to the fact it's your car. You know that car better than anybody else knows that car. If you drive that car every single day, you know that car inside and out. So you could tell if it's making a funny noise or if it's driving differently. And it's the best thing to do is be able to describe that as best as possible, as well as giving any kind of recent history on the vehicle. If it's had any issues, maintenance, repairs, or anything in the past couple months, it's always good to let that knowledge be known up front. So that's on that case. Some other tips that I can give customers is just know that all mechanics are not out there to take you for your money, and they're not all dishonest. So there's a lot of times where if someone brings in their car for issue A, there could be issue B and C as well, but issue A is covering that up. Or there could only be issue A. And when you come in for that, we solve issue A, and we might find issue B or C, or issue B or C might not be there until after issue A has been fixed. And a lot of times customers might get the wrong impression of, well, you didn't actually fix my car because I still have now this and this is wrong with it. But sometimes an issue will arise after one issue's been fixed. And some prime examples of that. I had one customer that I diagnosed. He had a cylinder misfire, and I did my diagnosis. Come to find out, it was a spark plug. We had a bad spark plug. I suggested he replace all 4 spark plugs. It was a 4-cylinder, 3 extra spark plugs. It was an old car. All the spark plugs looked really bad anyway. I suggested he go ahead and replace them all as some preventative maintenance, and that way he also doesn't get stuck somewhere. So he gets me get the spark plugs, put them in, and we have a misfire on a different cylinder. Did my diagnosis, come to find out it's a coil pack. So in that instance, we put new coils in, and sometimes the new spark plugs with the new gap, the proper gap, and them being a lot newer, sometimes the old coil packs doesn't have enough in them to run those spark plugs. So called up the customer, and very understanding. I said, you need at least 1 new coil. I would suggest you replace them all, but at least just this one you're going to have to definitely replace. No problem. He replaced it. Issue solved. And as far as I know, he hasn't had any other issues with any of the other coil packs. So just keep in mind, guys, that stuff like that can happen. That was a little bit different example, but that's kind of the stuff that can arise. So I had another issue with, or let's say for instance, you call and your vehicle has some noise up front. There's some real bad cracking noise up front. So you get it diagnosed. The issue is you need some lower suspension parts. A lot of your ball joints and stuff are shot, and it's hitting metal on metal. So you also advise that you need rotors. I hear some noise in the front rotors, or when you're driving the vehicle, to duplicate the customer's concern, you feel vibration in the steering wheel when you apply the brakes. That's normally a brake rotor issue in the front brakes. So you suggest that to the customer. You also hear grinding from the brakes. You let the customer know, they approve it. Once you get that fixed, just know that especially with noise complaint issues, it's very hard to pinpoint where exactly noises are coming from, especially if there's loud noises that kind of overpower smaller noises. So if you get that fixed and you don't hear no more noise up front, but you hear a small noise and you know it's coming from the back, that is a total separate issue from what was diagnosed. That could have been there, but because the front was making such a horrible noise, such a loud noise, the technician could not hear it. So now you would also have to go back and probably pay another diagnostic fee for the rear, or it might be taken care of by the technician. It's totally, or the shop, it's totally up to that individual. So just keep those things in mind, guys. Those are some tips for customers. There's probably a lot more. Like I'm saying, there's probably a lot more out there. But that's just some of the stuff off the top of my head, as well as some of the other tips for customers when you bring your vehicle in. Luckily, I haven't had too much of an issue with this, but preparing your vehicle for service. I guess we could put that one in there too. So if you're gonna go, let's say for instance a tire shop. If you know you need tires, or you're getting your tires serviced, or something like that, and you have wheel locks on your car, it's a good idea to either take that wheel lock wherever you have it, and either put it in the cup holder where the technician can see it, or give it to the service writer or to whoever you speak to at the shop. Hand it to him and say, this is my wheel lock for that car. Or if you need to have a spare tire removed or put on, and you got it's in your trunk underneath the trunk liner, and you got like boxes of whatever, cases of water and soda and all that stuff all in your trunk. It's an inconvenience, guys, and we don't want to be touching your stuff, especially if it's fragile or food related. We don't want to be touching your stuff. We don't want to have to remove all that stuff to get the tire out. We don't want to have to go through your vehicle trying to find your special key for your wheel lock on your lug nuts. And even moving away from the tire shop, even taking your vehicle in for service there, if you have a tail light that's out, you might not think of stuff like this, but sometimes we might have to go into the trunk and pull out the whole trunk inner lining in order to get to those bulbs or whatever the case may be. So again, that's just kind of some food for thought, I guess. So anyway, guys, I know there's probably a lot more tips. There is some more tips I want to get into, but I'm going to save those for another video and make it kind of a story. So hopefully those tips were helpful. Again, you're helping out the mechanic, but you're also helping out yourself in the long run. And I've been on both sides of this, and I'm still on both sides of this even today, guys. Before I became a mechanic, I used to take my vehicle in all the time, and I hated the experience. I hated taking it in. I hated waiting for 2 or 3 hours, if not longer, not knowing what was going on with my car, all that kind of stuff. I get it, guys. And feel like maybe I'm being ripped off, or did they actually do the repair? I totally get it. But being on this side as a mechanic, there is certain things that we need from you as a customer that's going to help us do our job better and more proficiently. That's going to help you in the long run, in the sense of money and time. Because I know that's two things as a customer I really do not want to waste, is money and time. So in order to save you money and time, it's best to let us know everything that's going on with your vehicle and helping us out. Again, I want to touch on the clearing the codes and touching your own vehicle, just because I think they're so important. And I'm not trying to be mean, and I'm not trying to like, oh, you guys need to do this. Definitely not. I'm just trying to give you some tips to help you guys out. So that's going to make it cheaper and save you time. Again, when you guys get the codes, whether it be from AutoZone or wherever it may be from, try to have them not to clear the code. And if they are going to clear the code, or if you are going to clear the code yourself with the scan tool, because I know scan tools are a lot cheaper now and they're very handy to have, and I would encourage anybody to get one, especially so you can, as a customer, kind of have some knowledge and kind of do some research. That actually brings me into another topic, but we'll save that for just a minute. If you are going to clear the codes, make sure you write the codes down. Make sure you take notes of what the vehicle was doing, and that way you can give it to your technician to help them out to solve the problem faster and save you time and money. As well as, if you're going to do anything to your car, make sure you let the technician know what you did, why you did it, what made you think to do that, all that kind of stuff. Because that's going to really help out, guys, in solving some problems. I can't tell you how many times that I've gotten a car and the customer just says, I don't know what's wrong with it. I can't get any kind of backstory. Well, what was it doing when this happened? I don't know. Well, did a light come on? I don't know. Stuff like that. It makes it super difficult, and it makes us charge more time because we have to put more time into it. Okay, yeah, purchasing your own code reader, pulling your own codes, and doing your own research. I encourage anybody out there to buy a code reader. You can buy them as cheap as I think like $20-$30 now just to pull a code, and you could definitely research it up on Google. And it's good to have that knowledge. The one thing I suggest as well, this is another customer tip for you guys and for us. For you guys, the tip is definitely get your code reader, definitely pull those codes, definitely research those codes on your specific vehicle, and kind of get to know your vehicle as much as you possibly can. But please do not go to the mechanic shop and just say, hey, I just want this part replaced. Google said that if it's a misfire, it needs all new spark plugs. Because that's going to do a couple things, guys. That's either one, if the shop does honor what you want, which is no diagnosis, and for you to put for them to put the spark plugs in, they're going to do it, and they're going to charge you for it. And if that doesn't solve the problem, then you're just out of luck, because that's what you wanted. You didn't want them to diagnose it. So be careful with that. The second thing is, if it doesn't fix it, again, you're going to have to pay for it, and now you're still not going to know what was wrong with your vehicle. The best thing to do, I know it really sucks, guys, but the best thing, advice I can give you, is to give in to the diagnostic fee. But what you want to do is find a mechanic shop or a mechanic that will either charge a flat rate for diagnostic fees, which example is, instead of charging $100 an hour, they might charge you $150, $200, or $100 no matter what. If it takes them 2 hours to figure out the problem, you still only pay that one flat rate fee. Or find a shop or mechanic that will actually, for instance, if they charge $100 an hour and it takes them, let's say, it takes them an hour and a half to figure out the problem, that $150, find a mechanic that will actually take some of that, a portion of that money, and put it into the repair if you decide to get it repaired through them. Some shops, mechanics do that. Some do it the flat rate way, and some just do it as hourly, and they probably won't put any of that towards your repair. So that's another good thing. A tip for customers, for you guys, is to call around and find out what the hourly rate is, and if they do something like that where they do a flat rate, or if they put some of that into the repair. There is your customer tips. Hopefully this was informative for you guys. I don't want it to be too long, but I wanted to hit some points. I feel like there's a lot more I could talk about, but maybe we'll save that for another video. If you guys are hopefully you guys like these discussion topics. If you guys do, we're going to try to keep up with them. We might come out with another one soon about mechanics tips. What can the mechanic do for the customer? As this one was pretty much what can the customer do for the mechanics. And maybe we could do one that's what can the mechanics do for the customers. As well as I have a bunch of other discussion topic ideas. So if you guys are enjoying this, make sure to hit that like button. It lets me know that you guys are liking my content, especially these new discussion videos. So we're gonna see how well they work, and we'll either decide to keep them going or we'll shut it down. So let me know, guys, if there's anything I missed. If you agree, disagree with anything that I said here, make sure to put it in the comment section below. So anyway, guys, until next time, have a good one.